Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good afternoon. The devotional today will be led by Vigen Akaronian, who is the Executive Director of the Carme Chole in Barnet.
Good afternoon, representatives. You probably heard of the Asian curse. May you live in interesting times. Buddhist teachings talk about the pain of change. Both are pointing out that uncertainty and unpredictability causes anxiety, fear, frustration, and suffering. I'll share a tale. There was a kingdom, an empire. The emperor was getting old and had to choose a successor. He invited the children who wanted to succeed him and gave them an assignment. He announced, "Here are seeds. Everyone takes a seed to grow a flower. Bring it back in a year. Whoever grows the best flower will be the next emperor." Little boy Ping put a lot of effort into for the whole year, but nothing grew. It wasn't what he expected. It was frustrating. On the appointed day, every child arrived at the palace with pots of amazing plants. And little Ping stood somewhere in the corner with an empty pot, ashamed of his failure. And other kids were teasing him. "How did you dare to come with an empty pot?" The emperor walked around being fascinated. And then he saw Ping and asked, "What's wrong with you? Couldn't you grow a flower like everyone else did?" "Your Majesty," responded Ping, almost crying, "I have grown a lot of flowers in my life and took care of your seed the best I could. I put it in fertilized soil and watered it regularly, but nothing came out. I did the best I could. I'm so sorry." The emperor brightened with a very large smile, addressing everyone. "I don't know where you all got your flowers, as the seeds I gave you were cooked. Ping has honesty, dignity, confidence, and bravery, and truly deserves to be the next emperor." So there are interesting times of uncertainty when the main thing we can rely on is our ability to stick to our values: decency, compassion, dignity, respect, generosity, patience, discipline, exertion, kindness, and gentleness. When we can rely on our caring and loving heart, and when we can rely on caring and loving hearts of people around us. Thank you.
Members, we have two House bills for introduction today. The first is House Bill 507, which is an act relating to the regulation of development in wetlands, introduced by Representative Booten of Berry City. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 507, an act relating to the regulation of development in wetlands.
Now the bill's been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Environment. The second is House Bill 508, which is an act relating to approval of amendments to the Charter of the City of Burlington, introduced by Representative Hooper of Burlington. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 508, an act relating to approval of amendments to the Charter of the City of Burlington.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. Members, we have a bill on the notice calendar requiring referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. Senate Bill 36 is an act relating to the Medicaid payment model for residential substance use disorder treatment services, carrying an appropriation. The bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Members, we received requests to read two House concurrent resolutions that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. The first is HCR 85, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 North Country Union High School Falcons exemplary snowboarding teams. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas many Vermont high schools now boast varsity snowboarding teams, and in 2025, the Jay Peak Resort hosted the girls and boys combined state championship meet. And whereas the North Country Falcons snowboarding on familiar trails delighted their hometown supporters. And whereas the Falcon girls' performances were superb, and especially memorable was a team member who won the overall individual state girls title, and a North Country colleague trailed closely with a third place finish. And whereas, although not the team champions, the Falcon girls, consisting of Anya Remmers, Dakota Bowen, Willow Clements, Aubrey Sakat, Haven Brunel, Elia Dillian, and Sophie Corkin scored a strong second place overall score. And whereas the Falcon boys won both the giant slalom, in which quickness and steadiness on the slope are essential elements, and the Rail Jam, a competition profiling a snowboarder's ability to perform tricks on a rail or rails while being assessed for style, technique, and creativity. And whereas after tallying all the boys' scores, North Country was on top, surpassing second place Burr & Burton Academy, and the Falcon team composed of Carson Limlaw, Logan Ellis, Quinn Goff, Armand Capron, Carson Lacroix, Emmett Williams, Chase Curry, and Gregory Rondeau proudly brought home their school's first snowboarding title. And whereas head coach Robert Walls Thuma, who returned to North Country this year after coaching elsewhere, and assistant coach Beth Kanicki were proud of all the North Country snowboarders' achievements. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 North Country Union High School Falcons exemplary snowboarding teams. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to North Country High School.
Next is HCR 94, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating Tyler Riggs of Fletcher on the Vermont Forest Products Association naming him Vermont's Outstanding Sawmill Operator in 2024. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas an outstanding example of an enterprising and innovative Vermont sawmill owner is Tyler Tucker Riggs, the proprietor of LSF Forest Products, LLC, LSF, in Jeffersonville, a company that his father established in 2003. And whereas soon after the company's establishment, Tucker Riggs returned home to Vermont to develop his new business with his father, and his LSF has evolved into a respected community-focused sawmill. And whereas Tucker Riggs has garnered many compliments from employees, colleagues, and local customers, and is genuinely well-liked. And whereas he has been described as thoughtful, always seeking to improve the mill's workflow, and extremely attentive to safety. And whereas community relations are a high priority for Tucker Riggs, and LSF has hosted state officials, industry peer groups, school groups of all ages, and environmental organizations. And whereas seeking to enhance LSF's operations and improve his business acumen, Tucker Riggs enrolled in the University of Vermont's Extension Forest Business Program, and as a result of the company's success, LSF is doubling its annual production capacity to approximately 1 million board feet per year. And the company has received a Vermont Working Lands Enterprise Initiative Supply Chain Impact Grant to finance the project. And whereas in recognition of his laudable industry leadership, the Vermont Forest Products Association chose Tucker Riggs as Vermont's Outstanding Sawmill Operator 2024. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates Tyler Riggs of Fletcher on the Vermont Forest Products Association naming him Vermont's Outstanding Sawmill Operator 2024, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Tucker Riggs.
Are there any announcements? Member from St. Johnsbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is for our devotional. Vegan Aronian, who gave the devotional today, is originally from Armenia and came to the United States as a graduate student at Columbia University in 1991. He began studying meditation and Buddhism in 1996, inspired by the teachings that helped him and others rise above the small-mindedness and illuminated the possibility of enlightened society. A man of many talents, Vegan holds a PhD in geophysics and has worked many years at the United Nations. He teaches in the US and has taught international meditation programs in Russia and Ukraine, and is the director of Karmi Choling, a Buddhist meditation retreat located in Barnet, Vermont since 1970. If ever you find yourself in Barnet, please come visit. All are welcomed. Madam Speaker, please help me in welcoming Dr. Vegan Harmonian to the People's House.
Will the guest and the member of St. Johnsbury please rise and be recognized? Member from Stowe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've just heard the resolution congratulating Tucker Riggs on winning the 2024 Vermont Forest Products Association Outstanding Sawmill Operator of the Year. It's my great pleasure to extend a heartfelt congratulations to someone who represents the best of what the Vermont forest products industry stands for: hard work, dedication, and a commitment to forest sustainability. Tucker's achievement is more than just a personal milestone. It's a sign of hope in a climate where over the past 50 years, Vermont has seen almost a 90% attrition or reduction in the number of sawmills in our state. At a time when the forest products industry in Vermont is struggling, Tucker has stepped in, taken the risks, not just as a skilled operator, but as a leader, and a young leader at that, in an industry that is graying and aging, with the exception of myself. Tucker is helping ensure that our forests remain working landscapes by supporting the local economy, preserving traditional knowledge, and keeping valuable resources close at home. His sawmill primarily utilizes locally grown and sourced hemlock for timbers that are used for housing construction. He's using local, renewable resources to help serve the housing needs of Vermonters, and he deserves a debt of gratitude from us all. His commitment reminds us that this work matters. It's about sustainability, community, and stewardship. Tucker's passion, drive, and excellence are an inspiration and a powerful reminder that the industry still has a strong and vital future ahead. It is also a powerful reminder that this cannot be done without strong partnerships and investments between state government and businesses that help keep our working lands working and help our local economies remain healthy. And Madam Speaker, I would appreciate if the body will welcome Tucker Riggs. He's seated in the gallery.
Will the guest of the member from Stowe please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Earlier, we heard the resolution honoring the North Country Union High School snowboard teams. And in deference to the member from Chittenden who talks about the beast of the East, when you receive 470 inches of natural snowfall on a raised J, you create the gnarliest riders and shredders in the state. I would like to recognize the young individuals that are here today. And I also would like to say, it's been probably some of the best 3 hours I've had in the State House, showing them around and explaining to them how the People's House works for them. And truly, our work is for them. So up in the balcony, we have our principal, Christopher Young, Coach Bobby Wells-Thuman, assistant coach Beth Kennedy, and then we have the riders, Sophie, Greg, Emmett, Chase, Quinn, who was second overall boys state champion, Logan, Carson, Evan, Carson, Willow, who was third overall state girls champion, Dakota, who was the individual state champion for the girls, Aubrey, Haven, Ella, and Anya. Would you please help me in welcoming these young people to the People's House?
Will the guest member from Derby please rise and be recognized? Member from Manchester.
Madam Speaker, I am excited to welcome two constituents today who I've corresponded with, and I've just realized that I've never actually said their last names out loud. So we'll give it my best shot. Kimberly Weiss-Lewitt is a Manchester resident. She's a certified doula, perinatal mental health therapist, and an international board-certified lactation consultant practicing at Gentle Landing Birth Center in Hanover, New Hampshire, and across southern Vermont. Lindsay Latchant is a certified nurse midwife, international board-certified lactation consultant, and perinatal mental health provider. She received her doctorate in nursing practice with a focus in evidence-based practice and quality improvement. She recently moved back home to Arlington, Vermont, and founded a community-based midwifery practice in Manchester. Together, they're the co-chairs of Postpartum Support International Vermont chapter. They serve Vermont families through collaborative and comprehensive mental health care, and they are both here to support S18. Thank you.
Will the guest of the member from Manchester please rise and be recognized? Member from Essex Junction.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to welcome the Emerge Vermont class of 2025. They are visiting the State House today to shadow legislators. The women in this class are from all corners of Vermont and have been training together since January to learn the skills and tools to run successful campaigns for election. The class of 2025 is full of motivated future public servants. 8 class members were on this year's town meeting day ballot, and many more hope to be on the ballot next year and in the future. The class here with us today will graduate next month and will be ready to hit the campaign trail. I ask my colleagues to join me in welcoming Emerge Vermont to the State House.
Will the guest member from Essex Junction please rise and be recognized? Member from Milton.
Madam Speaker, first, I'm thrilled to hear the use of the word gnarly on the House floor. That's a first for me in my 5th year here. But in all seriousness, tomorrow morning, set up in the cafeteria will be the USS Vermont support group folks with a display there. I'd ask you if you have some time to please stop and talk with them. There's going to be a resolution read tomorrow on the floor, and we'll speak to that a little bit. But again, if you have some time, stop by and have a chat with them. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Stowe.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I also would like to acknowledge a group of leaders, both members of the board of directors and other members of the Vermont Forest Products Association. They've been in the card room. They will be here after we gavel out at the end of this session. But it's a real joy. They visited our both Senate and House Forestry and Ag committees, and I'd appreciate if the body would welcome all of the directors and members that are seated in the gallery to the People's House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Will the guest with the member from Stowe please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? See none. Orders of the day. Members, we will begin with Senate Bill 28, which is an act relating to access to certain legally protective health care services. The bill was referred to the Committee on Health Care, which recommends that the House propose to the Senate that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Winooski, Representative Rebecca, will speak for the committee, and please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S28, an act relating to access to certain legally protected healthcare services.
Member from Winooski.
Madam Speaker, we've already passed provider and patient protection laws, our Vermont Shield laws, Acts 13 and 14. The SHIELD laws provide support for patient access to reproductive and gender-affirming care services. We need these laws to provide protection from tactics that can be used to harass and even harm those providing such services. This bill, S28, fills technical gaps in those acts and improves our current laws. So right off the bat, I just want to be super clear. This bill does not add new services, nor does it expand reproductive services or gender-affirming care. Technical corrections. You'll hear me use those terms throughout this bill report. S28 is important for extending reciprocity with other SHIELD states and strengthening consumer protection for both patients and providers. Among other provisions in the bill, protections offered for patients from misleading information and advertising by any healthcare services providers, and it better defines what constitutes unprofessional conduct by our healthcare providers in Vermont. The bill refers to professionals that are licensed both by our OPR, Office of Professional Regulation, which is in the Secretary of State's office. That would include professionals such as advanced nurse practitioners, as well as people that are licensed by the Board of Medical Practice, such as our medical doctors and physician assistants. So S28 addresses conduct of professions that are regulated by both of those two different organizations. Now I'm going to walk you through the bill. I am not giving page numbers, but I am going to reference the bill section by section. Section 1 of the bill creates reciprocity with other states that also safeguard access to reproductive care and gender-affirming healthcare services. If a healthcare provider engages in a legally protected healthcare activity or service to a person in another state, well, in that state, as long as what the provider did was legal in that state where they were located when they did it and would have been protected by Vermont law if they had been in Vermont, we will apply Vermont's protections for them. Section 2 includes an exemption for public inspection and copying under the Public Records Act. There are currently public exemptions for a number of things relating to healthcare, including prescription data identification, perhaps if you're prescribed to Viagra, or patient surveillance data or information about a prescriber who is prescribing a specific drug. This bill includes protection for an exemption from public records and inspection for our folks in both the OPR, Office of Professional Regulation, and Board of Medical Practice or other related licensing entity. So if the records contain telephone numbers, email addresses, or physical or mailing addresses of an applicant or licensee, they are exempt from copying and public inspection. The value of that is to protect the person who is applying from having intrusion and potentially harassment or harm in their personal lives. Moving on to Section 3, this portion of the bill relates to unprofessional conduct for OPR-regulated professions, including advertising that's intended or has a tendency to mislead, as well as to deceive, and to include permitting one's name and address to be used when not actively overseeing those services. In addition to when not actually in charge of or responsible for those services, and to specifically add counseling to the definition of healthcare services. Section 4 includes healthcare services under the Consumer Protection Act. We're broadening the scope of the chapter from what are called pregnancy service centers to expand the coverage to all healthcare services. When we passed that bill last year, it was very much directed toward one type of healthcare service, or to look at unprofessional practices in the nature of advertising. But both the Senate Health and Welfare Committee as well as House Healthcare felt very strongly that it should not be directed toward just one type of entity, but rather toward all healthcare services to ensure that information is given out accurately and appropriately by all providers. So our Section 4 deals with the scope of what constitutes a violation of the Consumer Protection Act from advertising to healthcare services that are performed in Vermont. And the section also includes a repeal of language that underlies it. Section 5 amends a statute that protects public health agencies and officials from cooperating in an interstate investigation or proceeding that seeks to impose civil or criminal liability on anyone who has engaged in legally protected healthcare activity in Vermont, to include federal investigations and proceedings, in addition to interstate investigations and proceedings. Section 5 also modifies an existing exemption for Vermont judicial proceedings to exempt court orders from federal and Vermont courts. Section 6 makes the disclosure of certain protected health information prohibited. States that are allowed under HIPAA to be more restrictive. HIPAA is Health Insurance Protection Affordability Act. To be more restrictive with health information than federal law. So this section amends limitations on covered entities and their business associates' disclosure of that protected health information as related to legally protected healthcare activity, so that they can specify that the limitations apply to PHI that's identifiable or susceptible to re-identification. It also prohibits the disclosure to a governmental entity other than the state of Vermont if the covered entity or business associate, now those are, covered entity means an entity that is bound by HIPAA and meets the requirements of HIPAA. And a business associate is someone who's affiliated with them and has an official document to have an official business associate relationship, that they can also comply and support the requirements of HIPAA. So it prohibits the disclosure to a governmental entity other than the state of Vermont if the covered entity or business associate has reason to believe the information will be used to investigate or impose liability on any individual for the mere act of seeking, obtaining, providing, or facilitating a legally protected healthcare activity. I just want to remind everybody that we are not adding any new healthcare activities. These are things that are already legally protected in Vermont. Section 6 also modifies the allowable disclosures of protected health information related to legally protected healthcare by covered entities and business associates to eliminate blanket permissibility for any disclosure required by Vermont or federal law or by Vermont court rules. It modifies the court determination required for an order compelling disclosure from a finding of good cause to disclose the information to a finding that the information will not be used to impose liability on anyone based solely on seeking, obtaining, providing, or facilitating legally protected healthcare activity. We added a new exemption for disclosures that are required in the ordinary course of business of Vermont's Medicaid program. Section 6 also protects covered entities and business associates from liability for refusing to disclose information in accordance with this section. I know that sounded very technical. HIPAA is a federal regulation. I'm going to blame it on them. Sections 7 to 9. These are related to fetal death reports and technical changes. Sections 7 and 8 are technical corrections that clarify the use of the term licensed healthcare professional throughout 18 VSA, Part 6. And in 18 VSA, Chapter 107 specifically. Section 9 expands the terminology describing which providers may be reporting fetal deaths beyond just physicians. So it includes all licensed healthcare professionals. Section 9 also requires reports of fetal deaths which are already excluded from the Public Records Act to be kept confidential, and it prevents them from being discoverable in legal proceedings and requires the destruction of those records after 2 years instead of the current requirement of destructing after 5 years. Section 10 relates to unprofessional conduct for the Board of Medical Practice Regulated Professions. Remember, we walked through the unprofessional conduct statute for those that are regulated licensees of OPR. This is similar language, but it's for the Board of Medical Practice Professions. The bill amends the statute setting forth what constitutes unprofessional conduct for the BMP regulated professions to include advertising that's intended or has a tendency to mislead as well as to deceive. It includes permitting one's name or license to be used when not actively overseeing the services provided, in addition to when not actually in charge of or responsible for those services. And to specifically add counseling to the definition of healthcare services. It creates an exception to the general prohibition on using the questionnaire for initial evaluation of a patient to allow prescribing medication to a patient to terminate pregnancy based on an adaptive questionnaire that allows the provider to get additional medical history and ask follow-up questions as needed. Those questionnaires are already in use in Vermont. Section 11, Advanced Practice Registered Nurses, Adaptive Questionnaire. This section creates an exception to the prohibition on using a questionnaire for the initial evaluation of a patient to allow prescribing medication to a patient to terminate pregnancy based on the adaptive questionnaire that allows the APRN to get additional medical history and ask follow-up questions as needed. Section 12 is around unprofessional conduct of physician assistants. It amends the statute setting forth what constitutes unprofessional conduct for a PA to include advertising, again, and also adds them to the definition of healthcare services. Section 13 is around, we're almost done, confidentiality of prescriber and pharmacist information on medications for legally protected healthcare. What this does is it extends protections to prescribers of medications that are used in providing gender-affirming care and reproductive care. So upon request, it directs pharmacists and other licensed pharmacy staff to redact or otherwise remove the prescriber's or the pharmacist's name or initials from a fulfilled prescription for a medication for gender-affirming or reproductive healthcare services. It also allows a prescribing practitioner who dispenses medication directly to patients for gender-affirming or reproductive healthcare services to redact or otherwise remove the prescriber's own name or initials from the fulfilled prescription. It provides immunity for a pharmacist or other licensed pharmacy staff for failing to redact or remove the prescriber or pharmacist's name, as long as the pharmacist's or staff members' acts or omissions don't constitute gross negligence, recklessness, or intentional misconduct. That the effective date would be upon passage. So, Madam Chair, overall, this bill is an improvement of the underlying statute, and it allows for improvement to what we consider to be or identify as unprofessional conduct. But it also provides critical patient protection from such things as misleading advertising. We heard from the Executive Director of the Vermont Medical Society, the Vice President of Public Affairs at Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. We heard from the Deputy Chief Counsel of Legislative Counsel general counsel from the Office of Professional Regulation. We heard from a parent from Danville. We heard from the Chief Healthcare Advocate at Vermont Legal Aid, the Director of Policy at the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, the VP of Government Relations at the Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems, the Health Statistics and Informatics Director at the Vermont Department of Health, the Executive Director of the Vermont Board of Medical Practice, the Deputy Secretary of the State Secretary of State's Office, the Director of the Rutland Pharmacy, an MD from West Windsor, a physician and co-founder of the M+A hotline, and the Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine. Last but not least, we definitely heard from the policy analyst at Vermont Right to Life. The House Committee on Healthcare approved the Senate version of S28 with our amendments favorably on a vote of 8-3-0. We ask that you join us by voting yes.
Now the member from Essex Junction, Representative Dolan, and the member from South Burlington, Representative Lalonde, offer an amendment to the report of the Committee on Healthcare that is printed in today's calendar. The member from Essex Junction.
Madam Speaker, House Judiciary appreciates the work of your House Healthcare Committee related to S28. Our committee did not take direct possession of the bill, but did take time to review the sections related to legal jurisdiction topics, such as liability coverage. Specifically, we reviewed sections 1, 5, 6, and 13. After hearing from Legislative Counsel and relevant witnesses, including the Executive Director of the Vermont Medical Society, the Chief Superior Judge of Vermont, and the Legislative Liaison of the Vermont Pharmacists Association, the following two instances of amendment are offered to more accurately clarify language. This amendment can be found on page 1606 of today's calendar. The first instance of amendment pertains to Section 6, Disclosure of Protected Health Information Prohibited, and clarifies that the only relevant orders are state orders, as we cannot dictate what a federal court must include in a court order. The second instance of amendment pertains to Section 13, Confidentiality of Prescriber and Pharmacist Information on Medications for Legally Protected Healthcare Activity, and removes the word criminal from the types of liability that pharmacists are immune to under this section. This change clarifies that there are no grounds for criminal liability with the language offered in the section. Your House Judiciary Committee unanimously approved the amendment. On a separate straw poll, the committee voted favorably on a vote of 8-3-0 on the four sections we reviewed.
Member from Winooski.
Madam Chair, your Committee on House Healthcare heard the proposed amendment from the Committee on Judiciary, and we voted in favor of the amendment on a vote of 8-9-0-2, 10-0-1.
So the question is, shall the report of the Committee on Healthcare be amended as offered by the member from Essex Junction and the member from South Burlington? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the report of the Committee on Healthcare. Now the question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Healthcare as amended? Are you ready for the question? Member from Ferrisburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I interrogate the reporter of the bill?
The member from Winooski is interrogated.
Thank you. Just need some clarification on some of the language that we're changing and adding. First, would the paragraph that we've added in Section 10, subparagraph A, 33C, Roman numeral 4, would that paragraph allow a patient to be prescribed a pill to terminate pregnancy without having an in-person examination?
Yes, I believe that is the intent of this bill.
Okay. What are the medical guidelines for the maximum gestational age for prescription of the abortion pill?
Madam Speaker, we did not discuss that because this bill does not adjust that or have anything to do with timeline of when individuals would be prescribed these medications.
Would it be fair to say, though, that there are some guidelines for the maximum gestational age for prescription of the abortion pill?
Madam Speaker, we did not discuss that.
Okay. I'll just say a simple online analysis of general practice is that there is a maximum gestational age.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Member from Burlington, what's your point of order?
The rules say that a member shouldn't ask questions that they know the answer to already, and I believe the member just asked a question and then answered it themselves.
May I see people at the podium, please? Will the House please come to order? Member from Burlington? Member from Burlington, I find your point of order not well taken, but I would like to remind the member to mind the difference between asking questions and interrogating and making a statement. Member from Ferrisburg, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that clarification, and I apologize. I did not want to appear argumentative. Okay, so may I continue my interrogation of the
Yes, the
reporter?
member from Winooski is interrogated.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So given where we were, is it considered unprofessional conduct for a medical practitioner to practice outside acceptable medical guidelines, the accepted medical guidelines?
You know, this bill really, I think, adds a couple things to unprofessional conduct, but we didn't discuss specific licensees' medical guidelines. So I can't answer that question.
Okay. So I'm done interrogating on that point. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, reporter. Thank you, member. So it seems to me that we are, with this new language in that new paragraph, that we're putting our patients at risk and our medical practitioners at risk of being found in violation of accepted standard guidelines, because if all that's being done to prescribe a medication that, for all intents and purposes, likely in Vermont, as it does elsewhere in the country, has a clear gestational age limit at which those medicines should be prescribed, and yet all we're doing is prescribing those medications based on a questionnaire that could either be errantly or purposefully incorrect, because oftentimes people who are on the other end of the phone with the doctor in a crisis pregnancy situation are going to be rather upset. They could be providing incorrect information to the questionnaire, and thus the doctor could, as a result of that incorrect information, incorrectly prescribe this medication beyond its gestational age of correct application, and be putting that patient at risk and also the doctor at risk of prescribing something when it shouldn't be. Whereas if the activity had been done in person, that would have been clearly been able to be assessed. The gestational age would have been correctly assessed if the person had met live with the physician. So I think we're setting our medical practitioners up for failure, which concerns me greatly. Madam Speaker, may I continue to interrogate on another point the reporter of the bill?
The member from Winooski is interrogated.
Thank you. So the next question is, and I'm just trying to understand what some of the phrases mean that were newly added to the bill. There is a phrase that appears several times in the bill that says, advertising about healthcare services that has the tendency to mislead. And can the reporter of the bill please just explain to me what that means, a tendency to mislead?
Well, you know, I think I would probably have to consult legal counsel. I'm not sure that mislead was actually defined in statute. May I speak to the last question just briefly? I want to clarify for the speaker that the questionnaires do not have to be used. They're used at the will of the prescriber. These questionnaires are already in use, and they are only prescriber-approved questionnaires. I just want to be sure that that piece was clear.
Point of inquiry, Madam Speaker, is the member reporter of the bill asking for a recess?
Yes, I'd like to request a brief recess to consult with legal counsel on whether mislead is defined in statute of this section.
The House will stand in recess for a brief moment. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? Member from Winooski.
Madam Speaker, after consulting with our legislative counsel, it seems my suspicions were right, and to mislead is not specifically defined in this statute. However, it is used throughout our statutes, and it is simply to lead someone to intentionally deceive them. And it's a commonly used term.
Member, do you have further interrogation?
Yes, thank you,
Member
Madam
from
Speaker.
Winooski's interrogator.
So if I may continue along that with that same question then. So given that the term mislead and the tendency to mislead, we're supposed to just understand those based on the dictionary definition of those terms. Can you give me an example where this is happening, that the committee felt that we needed to put in a law to stop it?
Can you show me a specific page or where in the bill you'd like me to refer to
Absolutely.
form an example for you?
Yes, Madam Speaker, in Section 3 VSA, 3 VSA 129A, under unprofessional conduct, go down to Section 21 under little a. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, that's the wrong one. My bad. My bad. Uh, 28. Yeah, here we go. Under Section 10, 26 VSA 1354, unprofessional conduct, subitem number 2, where it says all advertising about healthcare services or medical business that is intended or has a tendency to mislead or deceive the public. So can you give me an example where that's currently happening, that we're needing a law to stop that from happening?
I believe this is pretty standard in shield laws. I also believe this is pretty standard in consumer protection law.
Oh, okay. Thank you, member. So another similar area in Section 3, in fact, the one I had just referred to, Section 3, subsection A, 21, there's another phrase that's used that I need some definitions why we added these additional words, where it says permitting one's name or license to be used when not actually in charge of, it was originally there, responsible for, it was originally there, and we added or actively overseeing the professional services provided. What do we mean by or actively overseeing?
Sorry, can you refer me to that section again?
Yes, yes. It is Section 3, subparagraph A, subparagraph 21, under little a. And my question is, what are we trying to achieve by adding the "or actively overseeing" phrase? What additional protection are we trying to achieve?
Okay, what's the subsection?
Section 3,
Got it.
subsection A, item number 21.
That certainly reads like a supervisory activity to me.
Okay, so can you give me an example of where someone is not actively overseeing something that we, again, need to add this to the law to make sure that it's happening?
No, I can't.
Okay. Speaker, I thank the member. So, Madam Speaker, while I support the concepts of protection against false advertising and the need for medical professionals to properly oversee the medical services being provided, this bill seems and is logically and ideologically inconsistent and vague. It allows medical professionals to prescribe the abortion pill without ever seeing the patient. And let me just give an example there. We could have a person who is, say, claims to be 6 weeks along in gestation, fills out the questionnaire, gets prescribed, but is actually 13 or 14 weeks along, which is beyond the range in which the termination pill is supposed to be efficacious. So that allowance for the medical professionals to prescribe the abortion pill without ever seeing the patient seems to threaten the medical professionals to be acting in unprofessional conduct without them even knowing it. And that's poorly defined and with this rather poorly defined and ambiguous language. And it seems to be trying to stop a problem that doesn't exist. We couldn't come up with examples, and yet create this new problem that didn't previously exist. And so, given those reasons, Madam Speaker, I can't support this bill.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health Care as amended? Member from Essex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to, the legislature, we do not define appropriate professional conduct. That is for the licensing organizations, Office of Professional Regulation, the Board of Medical Practice. Providers who prescribe are highly trained. They are credentialed. They are licensed to practice within their scope of practice. It is not the legislature to determine how care should be provided.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health Care as amended? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to just share a little bit more information. I will admit, I used the internet and looked up the definition of mislead versus deceive as commonly used, and it sounds like deception is intentional and misleading is often unintentional, but they have the same results. There are examples of this happening nationally, and I would like to share that. First, I did want to say that clinical guidelines allow for the prescription of medication using telehealth for a wide range of health services besides those covered in this bill. Actually, this bill would cover any health services. I got to say that. And providers are responsible for that, and malpractice law would come into play if mistakes were made. And ultimately, it is our policy that providers and patients should be making those decisions. I would like to read an excerpt. Do I have permission to read a short excerpt from a document called, it's a little provocative, the name, Crisis Pregnancy Centers Lie, the Insidious Threat to Reproductive Freedom. However, it gives the information that was being asked for.
You may.
A woman seeking an abortion or at the very least accurate medical advice about her unintended pregnancy enters what looks like a typical woman's clinic. If she calls to make an appointment and asks about abortion, she's given vague or confusing answers and told to come to the clinic to discuss in person. Once she's inside the doors of a CPC, the unsuspecting woman has an experience that's a far cry from what's promised in the misleading ad campaigns or over the phone. CPC representatives unleash a documented pattern of deception, coercion, and misinformation to discourage her from abortion, contraception, and comprehensive medically accurate counseling. Furthermore, it says, quote, with over 1,300 crisis pregnancy center affiliates, the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates states plainly on its website that it is on the front line of the cultural battle over abortion, and that the organization's vision is to provide crisis pregnancy centers with legal resources and counsel with the aim of developing a network of life-affirming ministries in every community across the nation in order to achieve an abortion-free America. And so I share that as an example of the financial effort being made to wage a cultural battle on what should be medical decisions of individuals. Thank you.
Member from Brattleboro. Member from Bristol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to begin by addressing the concern about the what was referenced as the questionnaire. The questionnaire is a tool that is used across the country. It's called asynchronous care, and it is supported by a large body of peer-reviewed evidence, and many medical professionals use this technique. Numerous other states use this method for this specific, for the issues that this bill and the bill that we passed in another year were specifically addressing. In addition to that, this bill was strongly supported by medical professionals and who helped build in protections to this bill to make sure that the things that the member is concerned about are addressed. Again, the medical profession had a very clear hand in, as well as, of course, our legal counsel, to make sure that this bill protected medical professionals as well as patients. So again, the asynchronous care is a common technique, as another member mentioned, Madam Speaker, not just used for the instance that S28 is addressing, but for other care. And as the reporter of the bill already stated, this bill does not add services and does not have anything to do with medical standards of age of viability. And I want to bring up medical standards again. Another member also clarified that standards of practice for medical professionals and their discipline, should they be in abrogation of those standards of practice, are managed by specific boards for their profession, not the legislature, nobody else. And I also want to say that the insinuation that medical professionals would practice outside as a matter of course because of this bill, that medical professionals would practice outside their scope of practice. On behalf of myself, a medical professional, and my colleagues, I find that, I personally experience that as insulting. Lastly, as someone who, Madam Speaker, is still living with the aftermath of death threats, I stand with my medical colleagues, who you heard this member testify about in the recent bill about workplace violence, that physicians, Nurses are being attacked simply for who they are and what they believe in. They're being harmed by being doxxed, spit on, kicked, and killed. This bill protects us from that happening. So I stand with my medical colleagues in support of this bill that protects medical professionals as well as patients at a time when we have a critical access to care issue that this bill will address. And I stand in support of my medical colleagues that are providing legal, evidence-based, critically needed care. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health Care as amended? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have proposed to the Senate to amend the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? Member from Castleton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise today to express my concerns regarding S-28 and its evolution from the original version passed by the Senate to the version we consider today in the House. Originally, S-28 was designed with clarity, aiming to safeguard access to legally protected healthcare services while ensuring robust protections for healthcare professionals and patient confidentiality. Regrettably, the current House version introduces deeply problematic elements threatening professional autonomy, patient-provider trust, and the transparency essential to our healthcare system. Initially, the Senate passed S-28 with straightforward protections that maintained a careful balance between transparency, healthcare access, and respect for organizational and professional autonomy. However, in the House version, we see significant overreach, especially regarding the new ambiguous regulations targeting speech around healthcare. Rather than fostering clarity and fair operational guidelines, these new measures introduce vague definitions and unclear enforcement standards. This ambiguity may expose organizations to costly litigation, potentially restricting constitutionally protected advocacy. Particularly concerning are the provisions outlined in Section 6 related to the disclosure of protected health information. These measures complicate an already nuanced area, heightening risks for healthcare providers and pharmacists who must navigate these murky waters. Section 13 mandates pharmacists to redact or remove practitioner names from prescriptions for specific health services. Such a directive is not only logistically impractical, but threatens to create significant confusion within pharmacies, disrupt professional routines, and erode the crucial trust between pharmacists, healthcare providers, and most importantly, their patients. Despite slight improvements from the judiciary amendment, which wisely removed criminal liability immunity for pharmacists, the fundamental issues of impracticality and ambiguity persist, leaving healthcare professionals uncertain about their legal and ethical responsibilities. Such excessive risks do not align with realistic practices in healthcare environments and may unintentionally compromise patient care. Furthermore, the changes regarding fetal death reports under Section 9 are especially disconcerting. I have to ask myself, Madam Speaker, what right do we have to remove the very record of existence of the lives of our most innocent Vermonters? We permit their memory to live on in our records for 2 years, and then without any regard, we erase them from the memory of time. By reducing the retention period to just 2 years, we significantly diminish transparency and limit our ability to monitor critical health indicators and trends effectively. It is vital to question the intent behind such changes. Public health surveillance and accountability rely upon robust data collection, which this bill inexplicably undermines. Transparency in healthcare reporting safeguards the public interest and supports high standards of patient care. Any retreat from this transparency is deeply troubling. Additionally, the implications of interstate legality raised by this legislation cannot be overlooked. Vermont providers performing services protected under this bill may face criminal charges in other states, thereby restricting their freedom of movement. For instance, a Vermont physician may find themselves facing prosecution simply for actions sanctioned within our own state, limiting their ability to travel to other states, like Louisiana during events like Mardi Gras or spring break down in Florida. Such unintended consequences underscore the need for careful consideration and interjurisdictional consultation before passing legislation with far-reaching implications. Once introduced, these legal complexities, like the genie out of the lamp, cannot simply be reversed or easily managed. Ultimately, the intentions behind S28 to enhance protections and ensure access to vital health services are commendable. Yet, in its current form, this legislation introduces excessive ambiguity, impractical mandates, and alarming risks that outweigh its potential benefits. We must strive for clarity, Madam Speaker, accountability, and practicality in our laws, especially those governing healthcare. Given these significant issues and potential unintended consequences, I strongly urge this body to reconsider and reject the House version of S28. At this time, I'd like to interrogate the presenter of the bill.
The member from Winooski is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Section 13, can the member specify the exact mechanism or technological process pharmacists must employ to accurately redact practitioner information?
There's no requirement in this bill of which mechanism any pharmacist must use.
But Madam Speaker, how would they do it if they're going outside the guidelines that they've had for decades at this point?
I'm not familiar with what guidelines they've been following, but we certainly aren't giving them any new guidelines as to which mechanism they must use.
Under Section 6, can you detail precisely which types of disclosures of protected healthcare information are explicitly permissible and impermissible, providing clear examples of each scenario?
I'm going to need you to repeat that once I find Section 6.
Under Section 6.
You said.
Under Section 6.
Hold on a minute, please, Madam Speaker. Section 6. Here we go. Okay, I'm at Section 6. Can you? What subsection?
Is the member ready for the question?
What subsection?
Subsection 4, protected health information.
Okay. What's the question?
Can you please provide scenarios? Can you detail precisely which types of disclosures of protected health information are explicitly permissible and impermissible, providing clear examples of health information, protected health information?
No.
Thank you. And considering Section 9, how will reduced record retention impact Vermont's eligibility or compliance for federal health funding that relies on longer-term epidemiological data?
Madam Speaker, I don't have the answer to that question.
Thank you. And lastly, was an interstate legal impact assessment conducted to evaluate the risks to Vermont healthcare providers who may face prosecution in other jurisdictions due to actions protected by S28?
Madam Speaker, we do not have the budget to perform that kind of assessment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? Member from Essex Junction.
Madam Speaker, S28 provides technical updates to current state statute. These updates are needed to continue to support Vermont's values of protecting our providers and patients. I am voting yes and encourage the body to vote yes. And when the vote is taken, I'd like it taken by roll.
The member from Essex Junction requests that when the vote is taken, it be taken by roll. Is the member sustained? The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. Will the House please come to order? Members, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Will the House please come to order? Are you ready for the question? Member from Chester.
Previous sessions have determined that certain healthcare options are legal. I want to thank the member from Burlington for at least speaking the name of the elephant in the room out loud. Yes, it is true that crisis clinics advocate their position, but they also, many of them advocate for abortion. They are not unique. I think that this bill, as it is written, can be used by anybody to silence the other perspective on this issue. It's too vague, and an argument can be made on either side to prosecute that.
Member from Heartland, what is your point of order?
The member seems to be speaking beyond the scope of the bill.
No.
Will the House stand at ease for a moment? Member from Heartland, I find your point of order not well taken, but will caution the member to keep their comments as focused on possible on the legislation before us.
Just to finish that thought, I think that this language is vague enough that it poses problems for organizations on either side of any of these contentious issues. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arsenault of Williston.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? I would like to remind members that we are in the middle of a roll call vote. Members and guests are prohibited from using computers, phones, or any type of electronic device. Please refrain from the passing of notes and conversation during a roll call. And when the clerk calls your name, please answer in a loud and clear voice so the clerk can accurately record your votes. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Will the clerk please continue to call the roll?
Austin of Colchester. Austin of Colchester. Thank you. Bailey of Hart Park. Bartholomew of Heartland. Bartley of Fairfax. Rebecca of Winooski. Byrong of Virgins. Bishop of Colchester. Black of Essex. Lumley of Burlington. Boslin of Westminster. Bosch of Clarendon. Boonton of Berry City. Boyden of Cambridge. Brady of Williston. Brannigan of Georgia. Brown of Richmond. Burdett of West Rutland. Burke of Brattleboro. Burkhart of South Burlington. Burrows of West Windsor. Bird of Cabot. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Canfield of Fairhaven. Karis Duncan of Whitingham. Casey Montpelier. Casey Hubbardton. Chapin of East Montpelier. Charlton of Chester. Christie of Hartford. Christie of Hartford. Chena of Burlington. Coffin of Cavendish. Cole of Hartford. Conlon of Cornwall. Cooper of Pownell. Corcoran of Bennington. Cordes of Bristol. Critchlow of Colchester. Damar of Venusburg. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dodge of Essex. Dolan of Essex Junction. Dolgan of St. Johnsbury. Donahue of Northfield. Duke of Burlington. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Eastus of Guilford. Emmons of Springfield. Feltus of Linden. Galfetti of Berrytown. Garifano of Essex. Goldman of Rockingham. Goodnow of Brattleboro. Ghostland of Northfield. Granning of Jericho. Greer of Bennington. Gregoire of Fairfield. Hengo of Berkshire. Harpole of Glover. Harrison of Chittenden. Harvey of Castleton. Hedrick of Burlington. Higley of Lowell. Holcomb of Norwich. Hooper of Randolph. Hooper of Burlington. Houghton of Essex Junction. Howard of Rutland City. Holland of Rutland Town. Hunter of Manchester. James of Manchester. Kosenska of Burke. Keyser of Rutland City. Kimball of Woodstock. Klepner of Burlington. Kornheiser of Brattleboro. Krasnow South Burlington. Labor of Morgan. Lally of Shelburne. Lalone of South Burlington. Lamont of Morristown. LaRush of Franklin. Lipsky of Stowe. Logan of Burlington. Long of Newfane. Luna of St. Albans City. McGuire of Rutland City. Millay of Pittsburgh. Marcotte of Coventry. Maslin of Thetford. McCann of Montpelier. McCoy of Pulteney. McFawn of Berrytown. McGill of Bridport. McLiss of Milton. Mahali of Callis. Minier of South Burlington. Morganell of Milton. Morgan Emma Milton. Morsa Springfield. Morsi Bennington. Maura Weston. Rowicki Putney. Nelson Derby. Nielsen Brandon. Nigro Bennington. North of Ferrisburg. Noise of Woolkit. Nugent of South Burlington. O'Brien of Tunbridge. Odie Burlington. Oliver of Sheldon. Olson of Starksboro. Page of Newport City. Parsons of Newberry. Pezzo of Colchester. Pinson of Dorset. Pouch of Heinsberg. Powers of Waterford. Priestley of Bradford. Pritchard of Pollitt. Quimby of Linden. Rachelson of Burlington. Sackowitz of Randolph. Shai of Middlebury. Sheldon of Middlebury. Sibilia of Dover. Southworth of Walden. Squirrel of Underhill. Steady of Milton. Stevens of Waterbury. Stone of Burlington. Supernon of Barnard. Sweeney of Shelburne. Taglavia Corinth. Taylor of Milton. Tomlinson of Winooski. Toof of St. Albans Town. Torrey Moortown. Walker of Swanton. I'm sorry, Walker of Swanton. Waza Zachaberry City. Waters Evans of Charlotte. Wells of Brownington. White of Waitsfield. White of Bethel. Winter of Ludlow. Wood of Waterbury. Yakavoni of Morristown. Burroughs of West Windsor. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Hengo of Berkshire. Hooper of Randolph. Malay of Pittsford. Morse of Springfield. Squirrel of Underhill. Supernaut of Barnard.
For purpose of explanation, member from Williston.
This bill makes necessary adjustments to Vermont's existing SHIELD laws. The changes provide additional specific and clear protections for doctors and pharmacists who are acting responsibly, voluntarily, and legally within their professional roles to provide appropriate health care. While it's worrisome that we need to take these proactive steps to protect dedicated healthcare practitioners, it's a step that I'm proud to vote in favor of.
Member from Winooski.
I'm voting yes for this bill because it's time to strengthen our shields. Since Roe, we have seen 11 murders, 42 facility bombings, more than 200 facility arsons, and thousands of documented incidents of other criminal activity, including assault, bomb threats, butyric acid attacks, clinic invasions, delivery of suspicious packages, stalking, and harassment.
Member from Chester.
I vote no, knowing fully well that the bill is going to pass and that protections will remain in place. I also speak just as a reminder that some cannot speak for themselves and that not all decisions are in our jurisdiction. Thank you.
Member from Cavendish.
I vote no. This bill is written, although well-intended, does not address truly the safety of our healthcare professionals to keep them from potential legal actions or harm from outside the state. I will hope that this can be addressed before we endanger them with unintended consequences.
Member from Bristol.
I supported S28 because I care about the safety and well-being of medical professionals, indeed those who helped draft this bill. They are committed to high standards of care and must be protected.
Member from Rockingham.
An in-person visit for the provision of safe medication termination of pregnancy has not been proven to be superior to asynchronous care with an adaptive questionnaire. This bill contains technical corrections that have been revealed in the SHIELD bill that was passed in 2023. I voted yes to support access to these services and to protect our medical providers.
Member from Waitsfield.
Madam Speaker, I am fully in support of this bill, which closes loopholes in existing law and ensures the protection of medical professionals assisting women and others with their personal and private health decisions.
Member from South Burlington.
May I explain my vote?
You may.
Madam Speaker, Vermont cannot change the fact that many states have made abortion and gender-affirming care illegal. We cannot change the fact that many states have restricted or denied access to such health care. We cannot change the fact that there are increasing threats to such care at the federal level. But what we can do with this bill is improve upon the protections offered in Vermont's SHIELD bill. We can improve how we protect Vermont licensed healthcare providers and people who obtain or help others obtain reproductive or gender affirming healthcare from Vermont providers from very real threats.
Members, please listen to the results of your vote. Those voting yes, 97. Those voting no, 43. The ayes have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, next is Senate Bill 18, which is an act relating to licensure of freestanding birth centers. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S18, an act relating to licensure of freestanding birth centers.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill in concurrence with proposal of amendment. Members, the final bill on our action calendar today is House Bill 243, which is an act relating to regulation of business organizations. Member from Pownell.
Madam Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development requests that we delay action until Wednesday, April 23rd.
The member from Pownell moves that we postpone action on House Bill 243 until next Wednesday, April 23rd. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 243 until next Wednesday. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Member from Williston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to remind all members that there is a really special opportunity, free screening tonight of a documentary film called Can't Look Away, The Case Against Social Media, screening in room 11 of the State House, beginning around 4 o'clock. So you'll have time to get ice cream first and then come and join us. And there will be a supported discussion after the film with local psychologists and experts in the field of social media. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Friday, April 18th at 9:30 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Friday, April 18th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and this body